Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another collaboration over on the channel. This time it's going to be not for One Piece, not for Final Fantasy VII, or for that Trail's Greatness. Today, we are going to be continuing the catch-up journey that I've had with Monogatari, even though I've already experienced all this material through the light novels, but this will be my opportunity to finally discuss what has been an incredible anime season for Nisio Isin's masterpiece. And so, for the return, that was a long time coming. We didn't know when Shaft would eventually make their return, but they did. And to celebrate that, now that we're 2 arcs and a one-shot in, I really had to reach out to someone who I know loves this series even more than I do. An individual who has uploaded content on this series over on his channel, and also has had conversations with me over on just off air discussing the Monogatari greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is Hot Boy Spicy. What's good, dude?
What's up, audience? What's up, Recon? It is great to be here, and better than that, it is great to be back on the Monogatari grind set. Holy shit, man. Oh, wait, can I curse? Yeah. Can I curse on this? I'm sorry. I don't know if that'll ruin your ads or anything. Yeah,
No.
I should have asked that beforehand. But no, man.
No worries, dude.
It's a brilliant return to form. I have to say, that first episode, I was not expecting it to just blow me away like it did. The first episode. It's crazy.
First episode.
It's crazy. We got more.
32
we got
minutes.
more to come. It's oh my god.
Yeah, dude. Dude. It's crazy, right? Like I was telling AJ that too. I was like, bro, they came back with 32 minutes, and it felt like they continued directly after Zoku, as if the exact same momentum continued. They had everyone still working on it, except it leveled up like going from PS4 to PS5 or something, where it felt like the whole series just leveled up once again. I don't even know how that's possible, but like, man, what a way to come back. So far in this season, of course, for the individuals that are watching this, we have covered Tsukihi Undo with the first episode, the Nadeko Draw, and we just recently got the 6.5 episode, around 12 minutes, covering the cruel tale of a beautiful princess, Princess Beauty. So I'm glad we finally got to get those 3 things adapted with more greatness to come. Before we dive into the greatness, just to for my own personal knowledge and for that of the audience, Spicy, I have to know, bro, your history of Monogatari. How did you discover the series, and what made you decide to keep going with it? Was it like you fell in love with it quickly? Did it take a little while? Was there a character that stood out to you that made you want to keep going? Like, what was your history with the series like?
Oh, dude, this is actually like my favorite story to tell, because it's like it was a super unique journey for me. So with most series I consume, generally it is someone recommends me something. That's by and large, and then I just have like a list I go through, because there's so many series I still haven't tackled yet, especially when it comes to anime and manga. But with Monogatari specifically, I remember I think I was 18 or 19 at the time, probably 19, but I was I hadn't watched any series in a long while, and I was like, and I'm looking for something a little bit different, looking for something a little bit kind of underground. And so I remember Googling, I was like, great underground anime, something like that. And I come up with this thread, and it was on Monogatari. People were saying like, yeah, Monogatari, like in the West, it's kind of underground, but it's like really, really good. Okay, no synopsis about it, nothing. Like, I knew absolutely zil about Monogatari going into it. I started episode 1, and like, going into Monogatari blind, I have this take now. It's like, you have to go into it blind. If you can, you must. Because it is like, 100%. It's a roller coaster. It's a freaking journey, man. Like that episode 1, the beginning of just all the flashes of the Kizu stuff, and like you're just confused as all hell. You're like, what is going on? What is this story even about? What? There's a girl falling from the staircase. She slipped on a banana peel. What? Like what is it? What is the story about? And then episode 2, the finale, when it ends, we get that first arc, Shinjagahara's arc. And I sat there and I was like, this is my kind of story. The dialogue, it's so super dialogue heavy, but it's never like not engaging. All the dialogue, it was just like, it had me at the edge of my seat. And not like in a not in a action-packed sense, but on like these characters are so freaking interesting, man. Like any little more detail we're getting about him, like, oh wait, he's like a vampire. Wait. I fuck with Aragi already. Like what's going on here? I don't know. It's I think was it episode 2? I remember a specific quote that really got me. I was like, this, like even thematically, I can see this series just being insanely cool. It's when Shinjukahara asks Oshino, she says, "Is that God with me here is that God with me here right now?" And Oshino replies, "Yes, but also no. But also he's everywhere. The God's everywhere at all times, but also nowhere." And it's just like, wait, this is so fucking cool. Wait.
Right.
Like, and then thinking about what that meant, like even at the time I was already thinking, I was like, what does that mean? It wasn't until later that everything becomes super clear. It's all encompassing the main theme of Monogatari, basically. Like that exchange was a good TLDR of what the main theme of Monogatari even is. Oh man, it's so, the dialogue, all the symbolism, even the symbolism I can't catch, which one day, God willing, I actually learn Japanese. I'll be able to pick up all the quips and the kanji stuff. But that's kind of my, like, from, I would even say even before episode 2, but for sure episode 2, that finale, I was hooked. There was no way I was gonna stop. So and that's why, and that's actually what I always tell people. I always tell people, hey, I genuinely believe this. Watch just the first 2 episodes of Bake Monogatari. If you don't know you'll like it, you don't even know what it's about, all you got to do is watch those 2 episodes. If you like it, you'll probably like the rest of the series. If you don't like it, you probably won't like the rest of the series. Maybe the Kizu movies, but I'm pretty confident in that opinion. So
I love that, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's we talked about this before, but the idea of the type of series that you discover by encounter, by chance, is always special, especially whenever it hits this hard. And so for you to search up great underground anime and you find this in that way, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's ironic too, because it's like in Japan, it's not even underground. It's pretty popular.
Right. It's like I think besides Evangelion, or even with Evangelion, it was like the most sold DVDs, the Bakemonogatari set of like all time, if I'm not mistaken. So like that's their jam over there. Going into one quick thing before I go into a little bit of my history, you brought up the difference in how we're understanding the series compared to the Japanese audience. I've thought about that so much because Nisio Isin is such a wordsmith, especially the more that I read, not just Monogatari, but going into Katanagatari and Zaregoto, and I'm like, man, this guy's really like on point with a lot of this stuff. I can only imagine how difficult it must be for the translators to attempt to translate certain things that would not make sense to us. Like, I don't envy their jobs at all. And so if I would ever earn the opportunity, like you said, to learn a little more Japanese and read, I don't know, like a Bake volume or whatever, and in its original language and appreciate it there, I can only imagine how many things, how much greater it would even be, right? Understanding it in that way. But man, dude, so one of my close friends here on the channel, individual I've known for a long time, goes by the name of Ragi. At least I call him Ragi, and I've known him for a long time, and he just kept recommending Monogatari to me. And so whenever I got into it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, to surprise Ragi, I'm gonna get into this series, and I want to record myself going through the journey, and then I'll send it to him. I was only planning on doing a few, like through Bake or whatever, just to thank him for everything he's done for me here on the channel. And man, one episode in, and just like you with episode 2 and then the Mayoi stuff after, I was like, this reminds me so much of Bleach that I'm like, I can't not love it. Like, it is Monster of the Week in the best way possible. It's going into the supernatural elements I really love from Bleach, while also going into the psyche of the characters in the same way that Kubo did at the beginning of the series. Yeah. And because I'd been searching for so long for a series that would give me those early 20 episodes of Bleach vibes that I feel like no other series has, when I found Monogatari, I was like, oh, finally something else has it. Except, of course, it's very unique. It has that Tatami Galaxy thing going for it, too. And he's so incredible with multiple different things. What I find so fascinating with Bakemonogatari, after I caught up to the series, is that he only originally planned for that to be something for him. Like, he called it. I just recently read his 100th volume, and he was like talking about the beginnings, and he said something along the lines of, when he was writing Hitagi Crab and the Mayoi stuff, Kamuru stuff, and Tsubasa Cat, he was doing that for him, but also to flex everything he had learned up until that point, like as sort of like his magnum opus up until that point. Like, yeah, I got this, you know. Like, I've been writing for a while. Let me flex my muscles. But he was only writing it for himself, for his own enjoyment. And so when it became as big as it is, he even stated that like certain characters, for example, like Nadeko, were changed because of the way the anime perceived said character and presented said character. And I find that to be so interesting because he seems, not only through the anime but also through the light novels, like an individual that similar to Ichiro Oda wears his inspirations on his sleeves. Like, you can see it everywhere. You see the Precure inspirations, you see the Dragon Ball stuff, you see all of the mysteries. Nisui seems really, really into mysteries, so like you see that all of it and all the things that we can't catch because we don't speak the language. But it's so cool that an individual who wears all these inspirations can also be inspired by his own anime adaptation. And he always talks about it, like in either the afterwards or within the novels themselves, about like the anime adaptation and stuff like that. So he even said that while writing, he has the anime episodes just looping in the background to give him more ideas. And I'm like, that's so genius.
That's
like,
so
that's
funny.
so cool.
It's so funny too, because that's so Monogatari. That's like
right.
that coalesces with the main theme. Basically, it goes into that
right.
dialogue I was just talking about earlier in Oshinomeme. Basically, what that line means is, depending on where you are, what you're thinking, who you are in that state at that time, the god can be in multiple different places, because it's up to you, not the god, of where that god is or whether that god even exists. So yeah, that's so cool, man. Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's super dope. Like. And that's why I'm so excited to get to discuss certain things here with Nadeko, because he really goes into he pulls the layers even further back in his creative process within that arc, and it makes it a part of the narrative. But before I get into that, dude, tell me about some of your favorite characters in Monogatari, and do you have like a favorite arc or set of arcs in the series up until this point?
Oh man, favorite arcs is really hard. I'd have to think about that, and maybe I can give you an answer, but I can give you my favorite character for sure. She's actually my favorite female character in fiction, Shinjigahara. Okay. Itagi Shinjigahara.
Ooh,
and
okay.
The reason, it's really simple. I have never encountered a character with as much presence as Shinjigahara, like truly. Shinjigahara, she doesn't really have to do much, but she commands your attention in every freaking scene she's in.
100%.
I don't know, it's obviously, you know, a lot of Nishio Ishin's writing, but it's also like how the anime adapts her. Her voice actress performance is you know, another factor, but everything. All of this, like, it combines to make me just always enamored every time Shinjigahara. Even she doesn't even have to be on screen. It could be like a phone call. In this current arc, she was talking for like 2 seconds through the phone to Nadeko, and I was like, Shinjigahara, oh my god, like, I was freaking out.
The Conqueror's Hockey was going through the screen. It was like, hold up.
It's she is 100% my favorite character. Albeit, I will say a close second, very close second, is Kaiki Deishu. I love Kaiki so much.
Great pick.
Yeah.
Oh, you must love Hitagi N then, man.
Oh my god, that okay. When it comes to my favorite arcs, that is like top 3, 100%, no question asked. I just don't know if I'd put it. I just don't know if I'd necessarily put it above, like, you know, Owari or you know, Bake even, and then Kizu too. They're all so close, man. It's so hard.
So good. Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah. But I love it. And Aradagi for me is definitely a comfortable third, 100%. So
fantastic.
I love Aradagi.
Yeah. The reason why I bring that up is because I don't know if you saw this, but the anime just recently posted a little event that they were doing celebrating 15 years of Monogatari, and they asked for audience results on their favorite arcs. And so going down from 10 to 1 on the audience rankings, it goes Suruga Devil at number 10, Nadeko Medusa at 8, Mayoi Snail at Nadeko Medusa at 9, Mayoi Snail at 8, Hitagi Crab at 7, Shinobu Time at 6, Ogi Dark at 5, Mayoi Jiangshi at 4, Tsubasa Tiger at 3, Koyomi Vamp at 2, and Hitagi End at 1. This, of course, was before this new season came out, but it's just really interesting to see how the Japanese audience favors their arcs, and it does not surprise me to see that top 5 there in the slightest. I feel like I've seen some sort of variation of 1, 2, or 3 of those arcs in a lot of favorites lists, most certainly in mine. I love those arcs a lot. But yeah, then that takes us, of course, into this season, which has been fantastic. You know, when it comes to Monogatari, it's difficult whenever I talk about favorite characters, because I feel like Monogatari is a step above due to the way that, especially since I'm now reading the novels, the POV, allowing me to step into the shoes of the character is going to make me feel so much more closer to them. And so when you dedicate POVs to obviously Aragi's the main one, but to other characters within this series that allow us to get closer to them, and then the way that these characters continue to be fleshed out throughout the course of the series, not just in their own arcs, but in other individuals' arcs as well, just allows them to truly be in their own playing field in regards to characters in this medium. It's brilliant. And so my top 10 could be, I don't know, if I ever made like a top 100 favorite anime characters, all 10 of my top 10 Monogatari characters probably be in there because of how much I love these characters. Yeah. But the standouts for me for so long, the top 3 that has always, it's never been consistent of who's like 1, 2, or 3. But ever since I caught up, it's always been Nadeko, Shinobu, and Hanekawa. And what I find so interesting is that you named a completely different 3, and yet I agreed with everything that you said. And that, to me, shows true greatness.
Of
like,
course.
I cannot argue anything in the slightest, because those 3 characters you mentioned as well are absolutely fantastic and also in my top 10. But those 3 just speak to me on a very personal level. And now that we have the Nadeko arc that has finally been adapted, that was the main reason why I wanted to have you on and why I wanted to have this discussion. I've been thinking so much about this character. I talked about this on Twitter a few months ago, but the thing that really got me back to reading the novels of Monogatari was I was so something in my soul just kept telling me to keep rewatching season 2 after Tsubasa Tiger, because I do a lot of Tsubasa Tiger rereads and rewatches because that arc just feels like home. It's like Final Fantasy VII to me, or a Kingdom Hearts game where I can turn it on, get lost in it, because it feels like home to me, you know. And that arc feels like home to me. It's like the Urankar saga or something like that. Like, I can turn an episode on and be like, yeah, this is home to me. That's what Tsubasa Tiger is, as long as what it means to me on a personal level. But something in me a few years ago was like, yo, you gotta keep going, and especially the Nadeko stuff. And so, you know, I tend to listen to my inner soul when it's like, yo, you gotta tighten up and look at this, because you're gonna get something out of it, whether it be personally or creatively. And it ended up being both. But as I went through the Nadeko the Mayoi Jiangshi to Hitagi End stuff quite a few times, especially from Medusa to Hitagi End, I was like, man, I really, really love Nadeko's character. And then when I found out that they had an arc for her called Nadeko Draw in the light novels, I was like, man, I gotta lock into that. And so I started reading those, and obviously got really lost in them. But once I reached this one, I immediately fell in love, and it was like a place and time thing of, I was just researching a play to do a thesis / presentation on for Luigi Pirandello's 6 Characters in Search of an Author, which has become my favorite play. And I just have to say, in regards to the conversation before we get into it, Spicy, you and I have talked about the way in which we view stories through other stories and through our own personal experiences. And I feel like Nadeko Draw, depending on who you are, can hit extremely hard. But I feel like because of the path and journey that I took to get there, it hits like 4 times harder for me, because I was in the middle of researching that play I find out that Nisio Isin basically adapted that play into this, whether it was subconscious or on a like actually willing to do so. I don't know, but it's just so incredible in the way that both of them handle their creative process in that way, by presenting it that way narratively. And then I was just coming off of my drive to truly make this thing happen, similar to Nadeko's journey at the end of Hitagi End, of like, yo, I really want to make this happen, man. I want to become an author and publish my work to the world. So it was like a perfect storm of multiple different things, and that's why this arc means so much to me. But of course, I want to get your thoughts before I get a little deeper into mine. Obviously, you're also an individual who is an aspiring author attempting to create their own work of fiction. This is a character that embodies the multiple different things that we have to go through before we even start our journey. Nadeko didn't even get to the starting line yet, and she has gone through so much as a person that she has to confront all of these different versions of herself before she can officially go on that journey. And so I just have to ask, man, how did you feel about Nadeko Draw, and how did it remind you of your own personal journey as an author?
Well, I'll tell you what, something I held back from saying when we were talking about favorite characters was Nadeko rising so exponentially on my list. She is actually right behind Adaragi after this arc, because the arc spoke to me so much, and her personal journey within the arc spoke to me so much. I've written down multiple notes for this talk, because literally every line in relevance to creation resonated with me. Like every single one touched on a box that I have encountered in my individual creative process. And so much to say, I think out of any story I've ever watched, read, whatever, thus far in my life, this spoke to me the most as a creator. Mm-hmm. As someone with that ambition, it's crazy. Like I wrote down a few, maybe even more than a few lines, specific lines that was like, oh my God, this is the perfect way to put how I feel about this subject matter into words. God, even the conversation about putting time in, and then Yotsugi brings up that it's like, well, time is not necessarily the biggest factor. It's like exactly what you're doing with the time. And it's and thinking solely about time in the first place is kind of odd, because you have to sleep, you have to eat. In order to make good creations, you have to do all these other things. Life has to get in the way in order to make your best creations, kind of thing, right? And not only that, but extending off what Yotsugi was saying, I was already thinking, oh, but where does inspiration come from? It comes from living life, right? You need to do that. You need those distractions. You need to get out there. And what does Nadeko do in the story? She gets out there. And through that journey, when she gets out of her home, she faces herself, accepts herself, and, conquers conquers her past self, if you will. And internalizes it finally. And that is just so beautiful, because I've gone through a similar process, not near as, epic or fantastical, but...
I can assure you it was as epic as fantastical. Spicy's just being humble.
True. Yeah, no, man, it's, out of any arc personally, of anything, not just Monogatari, like I said, this spoke to me more than anything as a creator. First and foremost, I view myself as a writer, and for that part of myself, which is a major part of myself, this is completely resonated with. I was blown away, absolutely blown away. We'll get into some of the specifics when we talk about the episode, but God, man, and it's funny too, because I had not watched any of the arc yet before you reached out to me for this, and I watched episode 2, and I was like, oh my God, I know why Recon chose me, and not only am I honored, but like I know he's feeling very similar things to what I'm feeling. And I was just into episode 2. I was like, oh man, this is going to be a brilliant arc, and it was. The pain of creation, the excitement of like all of it, all of it. It's all here in this arc. It's so beautiful.
It's so interesting. You bringing that up. I've been thinking a lot about first and foremost a lot of those same lines. I have so many screenshots from these episodes because I feel like I could take those screenshots that were placed in this episode and take that to anyone in any creative field, and they'll be like, I get it. I just that's exactly how I feel. It's that type of thing, because as I've been thinking about not just Nadeko Draw, but things like Evangelion, Hideaki Surachi's Gintama, certain things that are the creator putting everything of themselves, splashing their emotions, their thoughts, their what they're feeling at that point in time onto the page with no type of filter. That always resonates, and because it comes out as being so personal, it ends up being universal, because a lot of those things are something that that hits and resonates with a lot of different people. And like I said in regards to at the beginning of this conversation, if this is an arc that's going to connect with you, it's going to connect with you. Similar to how Evangelion really is if this connects with you, it will really connect with you, and or even Monogatari in and of itself feels like that for the entire series. But with Nadeko Draw in particular, because we are finally seeing the conclusion and or the continuation of a character that after Hitagi End we see briefly in the anime throughout the rest of the journey. It really is after that about the other members of the cast, and so we don't really get to see what happens to Nadeko, and it's so cool that Ononoki is the one who is sort of like the reliable narrator, in a sense of like, yeah, this, especially in the novel, while this nut job is going crazy and trying to chase after herself, Ononoki's the one that both inspires this crazy plan and puts it into fruition to begin with, but like you said, also brings it down to earth whenever you think about the 10,000 hour thing, which of course all creatives have heard about, but also in regards to your what you brought up earlier for the, everybody has to eat food and sleep, and you have to think about all that stuff, and then you bring in the other side of it, which I think also resonates with a major part of the audience. That's the parental side of the Nadeko situation, because it's not like Nadeko has a bad parents. As a matter of fact, his will be the complete opposite. Individuals who clearly love and want the best for Nadeko, but similar for how it is for a lot of creatives out there. I'm going to assume ourselves included. This is a situation that sometimes, even though obviously they're looking out for the best of their children, the what we're trying to do is like it can't be understood or comprehended by another individual that's also not going through that same thing. So yeah. It's like that sort of dichotomy between someone who wants the best for you, but yet you do not want to follow that path and want to follow your own path, is very Monogatari. And like you said earlier, goes back to that original Hitagi Crab stuff where the foundation for the story was set, in that way, and the way that the theme of the story was placed there by Nisio Isin. But yeah, man, going through it, we could do either episode by episode or the entire thing as a whole. But if you want to get into any specifics, like were there any certain things or lines that are really connected with you?
I think I want to start by piggybacking on what you just said about in relation and how your relationships can affect the story, because this is something that also that I thought about while watching it too. The scene where we get the exposition that her parents want her to get at least a job while she's a shut-in writing manga and stuff, because that's the pragmatic thing to do if you're not going to go to school. Actually, I had a very opposite situation when I was about 20 or 21. I was still living with my father at the time, and I remember talking to him because I was going into business school at the time. Actually, I had just graduated my community college, and so I was moving up to university to actually get my bachelor's. And I already did some classes in preparation for business school and stuff, so I was fully prepared to do that. But I remember talking to him. I was like, man, Dad, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's this gnawing sensation in my conscience that's just telling me, like, you need to devote more time, because you truly believe that you have something worth showing the world,
Right.
And you have something that you can make special if you just devoted more time to it. And I was telling him, like, I don't know, man. I feel like maybe I should do a degree that's more geared toward writing or something that I want to do. But at the same time, I know the prospects there are just going to be they're going to be dim. It's not going to be as much as going to a business major. And I don't know, dude. Like it's I'm so conflicted. And he was like, he looked up the majors and this university I was already going to go to, and he was like, and he looked into it for me. He didn't, I didn't look into any of this.
Right.
He went to the university, talked to the people, did all this stuff, and was like, he came back to me. He's like, hey, this is actually practical. You can get a job doing this. It's called professional writing, right. The major. Even the title, professional writing. Like, you could even go into a company to write articles or do anything like this. Like, and at the same time, you can learn how to write your story. Do this, like, do whatever you want to do, man. And I was like, fuck yeah, Dad. Okay, you know what? I'll do this. I'm changing my major. Let's go. I'm going 100% into it. And God damn it, I did. I grinded. I learned so much. Not necessarily about how to craft a story, but that's not why I was there. I wanted to acquire the skill to be able to translate my ideas into a legible format on paper. And I learned, and that was the best place I could have been to do that, because, oh my God, my professor, he put all of us through the ringer. He put, and I love the guy, but I mean, I remember even talking to fellow students. 2 of them went to counseling over his critiques, because like it was that rigorous. Like, so many concepts were drilled in my head, and I will never forget them because they were drilled into my head. I'm
so glad.
Yeah, and just to have just even one person that is willing to go out of their way for you like that, and do that for you. And so that you feel a lot more not only equipped, but you feel like this is the correct path is something that it's so hard to find. But here's the thing, Nadeko has that in the form of Ononoki. Yeah. They have like this beautiful mutually beneficial relationship, because it's not just Nadeko benefiting from it. She's getting good advice from Ononoki, not only on her path, but in her individual drawings. She models for and all that stuff. But not only that, through that experience of being friends with Nadeko, basically, she just won't admit it in verbiage, but they are friends. She's able to retain her form better, her constitution as a familiar, because as she said in episode 1, right, like she's literally got to eat ice cream even though she doesn't get hungry, because that helps her maintain this sort of dead human form kind of thing, right? So by communicating with Nadeko, it's also helpful to her, because it reminds her of like, well, what life used to be when I was human, and I need to be more human to even exist still, basically, right? So it's this beautiful mutual relationship, and it's just and how Ononoki is there for her, there for Nadeko in that regard, really reminded me of my father. So just that alone already was resonating with me. There's so much more here. Literally everything pertaining to creation, it speaks to me, because I've gone through things that are very similar on this path. So man, phenomenal stuff.
That's so beautiful. I appreciate you for bringing that perspective, because that is, like you said earlier, whenever you have that individual there, even if it's just one person that can provide some sort of emotional support to be like, yeah, you know what, man, you got it, bro. Like, I believe in you. Like, I don't think anyone has any idea how far that can go for you until you receive it, and it'll come in the moment where you either least expect it and or feel like you're about to hit the brink, as like you were just saying, of like, man, there's something in my consciousness that's really eating away at me. Like, I have to do this. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because obviously I had a similar situation to you, where my original thing when I went and graduated from high school was to go out and get a degree in something I knew I could do, so that I could at least make money while attempting to go after what I really wanted to do, which is obviously the writing thing. But I remember after graduating with my first associate's degree, which was for graphic design, a couple months after that, I watched this series called Hibike Sound Euphonium. And it forever changed the way that I looked at the creative process. I would highly recommend to anyone who's listening to this, Spicy, have you watched Sound Euphonium?
I have not, no.
Okay, so I would definitely recommend this to you, and I'll recommend this to everybody else out there who loved Nadeko Draw, and in particular the aspects of creation. because there is a line that was stated in there that it's like I finally found someone who understood me and the struggles that I was going through at the time. And there's a line when Kumiko states that through her euphonium, playing it as a musical instrument, of like, there's a sound inside of my head that I'm trying to replicate it, but I can't, and that's frustrating me. And the whole episode is based around this. It's my favorite episode in the series up until season 3, which brings a lot of super, super peak stuff that maybe contend for it. But just on a personal level, that episode always stood out to me because that is exactly what I had been going through for so long. Like, I had so many marvelous things that I thought were brilliant in my head. And when I got them down into the page, I was like, dude, what in the world is this slop? Like, this is crazy. And so for me to get to that next level, I knew that I needed to do break out of the traumatic thing that I had been tied down by, which is not wanting to share my story with anyone else because of a traumatic experience that I had had before, and B, attempt to find some way, shape, or form to break out of that shell and progress to the next level that I feel like I'm just about to grasp, but I feel like I'm so far away. It's like you feel like you're almost right there, but at the same time you could run for another 100 miles in the desert and you will never find another a glass of water. And that's how I was feeling at that time, and that's whenever the Legend of Heroes Trails series came in super, super clutch, because one of its main protagonists, which has become one of my favorite characters of all time, goes through a journey of the character arc summarized is basically choosing between your purpose and what makes you happy. And it is such a powerful thing because you get to see how literally how the two different ways life could have gone if the individual would have chosen to live out the purpose that was set out for this individual, and or to do what actually makes him happy. And so when I finished experiencing that incredible character arc, I looked at myself in the mirror. I had a similar conversation with my mother, and I was like, yo, this is, I feel like right now, even though I'm much older than I was when obviously going through my first go-around in college, I don't care what I have to do. Obviously still working the job that I'm working at, but I really want to do this. I want to pursue it. This is something that I've loved to do ever since I was a kid, when I was watching those Sailor Moon episodes and the Ed and Eddie episodes, and I wanted to make versions of those things, like brand new episodes that no one had ever seen before, and I would write them down in my notebook as like these brand new episodes. And that's how I started this whole writing thing and fell in love with it, and have always loved it throughout all these years. I want to do something with that, and the only way I can do it is if I break out of my shell and confront myself, similar to what Nadeko does here. And after finally taking all that stuff off of my chest and getting that to someone else who potentially could have understood, I finally got that, like, yo, if that's what you want to do, as long as you can provide for yourself, whatever you do in that spare free time is yours to do. And that was a big weight off of my shoulders, because I was going through a similar situation as Nadeko, where even though I'd wanted to do this after high school, I also had to go out and find a job and stuff of that nature, because that was what was recommended and told for me to do. And so once I found that stable position and was able to find that little bit of free time to not just do YouTube, but also the writing stuff, it sort of was like that, wow, I did all of this, all the things that I've gotten to this point, and now I can finally get to the starting line I've been waiting for this entire time. And similar to the journey that you had with your professor, I cannot recommend enough the writing program that I was at the University of Central Florida. It was such an incredible experience, and one that I will always, always, always cherish, even if the professors will always like, or I should say, even if they don't remember who I am or what it is, their impact on me and the impact of the classmates on me, just for on one end, for finally being able to get that story into somebody else's hands, or any type of the writing in someone else's hands, and receive feedback, honest feedback of like what needs to be improved on, or how I feel about this, how I feel about that that felt so that was so good for me, because I don't share that stuff with anyone. So it was like finally breaking out of that shell and forced to confront myself in multiple different ways. But all love to the individuals in those writing programs, and so bringing this back to the whole parental thing, it is so interesting, because Monogatari parents are presented in a multitude of different ways. Each and every single character has the parental figure either shining in a positive, negative, in both lights, but it shows that they are humans attempting to do either what's best for their kids, or in other ways, similar to like Hanekawa, individuals who are completely neglecting and not really looking out for their children. We get to see the different types of parents that there could be out in the world, which is why also Tsubasa Tiger is something that truly hits home, because that's like an arc that centers around that theme of home. What does it mean to have a home to go back to? What is that in it? And it makes sense whenever you see the journey that Hanekawa goes on after that. But yeah, going back to Nadeko, the continuing on with the what happens after that, when all of the characters get sent out there, and you get to see the previous versions of ourselves. You know, the flirty one, the god one, the meek one, and I think I'm missing one, but I forgot the name of it. But so it's these 4 different versions of Nadeko that now she has to go out and find. And this connects over to the 6 characters in search of an author thing from Luigi Pirandello, which, just to summarize very briefly, is a story written by Luigi Pirandello in, I believe it was 1921. And the reason why he wrote it is because at the time he believed that stories were starting to get sort of, I'm not going to say stale, but he kept finding a particular rhythm that individuals were just so used to, and he wanted to break out of that. He found the stories that were being told at the time to be boring. And so he wanted to showcase his creative process through the stories that were being told here as a sort of me against the world situation of like, this is what I have to go through to get these stories out there. And because he was failing at the time, it was like sort of like a cry out to the world of like, yo, this is who I am and what I'm trying to bring to the table. So he tells a story of these individuals, these characters who are in search of an author, because obviously this author is struggling and is unable to provide. And so what you have here is an entire family that throughout of course it's a play, so it's very theatrical, similar to how this Monogatari season is, and in particular that arc of like these very theatrical characters who have very distinct personalities and quirks, but they all connect to the author. They all are different subsections and versions of the author. And so what we have with Nishio Isin and Nadeko is a character who has always represented Nishio Isin as an individual, but at being the secondary, he says it in volume 100, I believe it's 1, that originally he planned Tsukihi to be the secondary protagonist after Araragi, but after the anime stuff and his own journey with Nadeko became that second character that he could sort of showcase a lot of different things through. And we see that shine throughout this arc, where those different versions of Nadeko could also be seen as different versions of Nishio Isin, because as he's brought up multiple times within the books, he didn't really have a plan so I'll give you an example, right? Let's just say he starts off Shinobu Time or Mayoi Jiangshi. He'll have a plan in his mind, and then he'll just start writing, and the characters will start writing for him, and he'll finish off. He'll be like, "Man, guys," and he says almost, I would dare say, like 15 of the afterwords that I remember reading for the novels will have him apologizing for the story that he wrote, because it was not the story he had in mind. And I think that is the Nadeko Draw brilliance all the way to the like full stop, where you start off, Nadeko is like, yeah, I have this brilliant plan, thanks to Ononoki and my editor, we're going to go out, create these characters, you're going to help me finish my work, and that'll be that. And it should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'll be able to get the manga out and live out whatever it is I'm going to live. Of course, not only does her journey not go that way, Nishio Isin's writing doesn't go that way, and life doesn't go that way. Yep. And so what ends up happening, though, is one of the most incredible character journeys that takes place because of the mistakes and the accidents that she could not foresee. And so, of course, when we get the resolution there at the end, it's like I could not imagine my life happening without this journey. And I think it was a sort of Nishio Isin coming to terms with his own writing process, to be like, yes, my writing is never going to go according to my plans, but what comes out at the end is who I am. It is me. You know what I mean? And so, as an author, how do you feel about that, Spicy, in regards to, obviously, as creators in the YouTube space, in the writing space, anybody listening to this can resonate with the ideas of things not going to plan. But as creatives, you know how many times you go into either recording session or writing session and be like, I'm going to go in talking about this, and you talk about a completely different thing because that is what your heart wants to say at that time. How do you feel Nishio Isin, went about that through Nadeko's character within this arc?
I mean, it's crazy. I think you hit the nail on the head. I actually had a note about this very thing, but you've already brought it up. Hey, so good stuff. But but I think it's better just to relate it now to my own stuff, because this is one of the things that connected with me as well. This idea that we always have at least a rough outline in our head, but that's never what the story is going to be. It never is, because with my own work, when I actually started writing it, oh my God, do I have so many additional scenes. As a matter of fact, I have a whole additional arc that came from actually just now planned for the future because of just me writing. I had this new character come about out of just, I was feeling it in the moment, because I have a weird writing process. When I'm writing, my creative juices are also flowing. So I'm doing like almost two things at once. And now a whole new scenario, making the story even longer than it already was, has come about. It's crazy. It's never, but it's always going to lead, I think, to a good place, because at the end of the day, you have something better than where you started. Nadeko has a life at the end of this series, or this arc, I should say, that is better than where she started, because she's not just a mangaka anymore, or an aspiring mangaka. She's a mangaka and also a part-time spirit investigator, oddity investigator.
Right.
Which is better, and it's better because she has now an opportunity to get out and experience. And what happens when we experience? We're inspired, and that's where stories come from, right? This is part of what I was saying earlier. It's not about how many hours you grind. It's about what you're putting to the paper. That's what matters. It doesn't matter how long it takes. What are you doing in those moments? What are you doing? What are you thinking about? What are you drawing from? Do you have enough experiences to draw from? That matters far more in actuality than the actual time you put in. So all that stuff is just it's completely true to me anyway. Other people have their own unique experiences, but for me, Nishio Ishin, or I guess maybe it is more universal. And maybe it's not just me and Nishio Ishin or kindred spirits, but all authors basically are. We go through a very similar process. I think one of the best quotes, actually, it's not even the episode that starts this arc. It's in episode 1, the one-off, single arc episode that focuses on Tsukihi. Nadeko says something to the effect of, "I'm so glad that my life is not easy." And oh my God, is that true, especially when you're a creative? Because let me tell you, just a year ago, shit went really bad for me in my personal life. I won't get into specifics, but it went really bad for me. And I was, I was almost at the point of collapse, truly. I've never struggled like I was a year ago. But I came out of it with a whole new perspective on my main character. And I created a lot more great things out of that. And my perspective coming out of that was really cool, because I thought about it. I was like, isn't it amazing that since I'm an author, I can turn my suffering into something great, into something that other people can experience? Is there no greater feat than being able to turn suffering into something that beneficial? That is, I have nothing but gratitude for having the ability to do that. Like, that is amazing. And that line brings me directly back to that moment where I had that perspective shift. with that Nadeko quote. I'm so glad my life has not been easy. It's something to that effect, but I think you know what line I'm talking about. The audience
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
but yeah, just all of these things, and like even the so I caught in episode 1. I actually wrote a note. Funnily enough, I say perhaps externalizing that slug, which Ononoki does in the first episode to get it out, so Tsukihi can help defeat, right? Perhaps externalizing that slug is symbolic in that Nadeko will now progress faster. I was actually right on the money. I was feeling Nishio Ishin before he even started the arc, because as soon as that slug comes out, the next episode starts the new arc to now where it's like, oh, time is against me. I need to make a thing of myself. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. I've been going through that right now. I'm seeing authors that I love, like, Toriyama. A few years ago it was Miura. I'm seeing these people die, and it's really making me understand, like, dude, I'm only getting older, and I have such a huge story. I need to do this. I need to do this sooner rather than later. So now I'm, kind of time crunching too, in a similar fashion that Nadeko is in this episode. The whole reason for externalizing different parts of herself is because she wants to ramp up the pace. Yeah, it's God, and even that speaks to me. It's crazy. And I have a lot actually to say on Ononoki's first advice. Because remember, in that episode, she says, well, there's 2 paths I'd recommend. Or the second one I wouldn't recommend. I want to talk a little bit about the first one, because I think it's really interesting. So I wrote, Ononoki recommends the first option of showing her face and telling her life story. Perhaps partly because Nadeko has to get over the fact that she may have to be seen more than she wants, if she wants to truly make something of her work. If nothing else works, should she just give up without trying? No. She should swallow her shame and do something superficial to get eyes on the part of her that isn't. To take something bad and transform it into something good. Is that not a story in of itself? Conflict, after all, is the crux of a story. But the resolutions, no matter how painful it was to get there, all lead to a lesson to be learned. She may start as the cute novice mangaka, but that has the potential to lead her to the legendary mangaka Nadeko Sengoku. And if it has the potential to lead her there, why not brave some discomfort and humiliation for it? This is perhaps why she's forced to face the different versions of herself that are so condensed to one characteristic. They are exaggerations she can still achieve, and did achieve when the conditions were right. To face them now means she'd better be able to tackle the embarrassment later pertaining to her manga. It's so cool, because that is true, is being able to, when you put yourself out there, you're always going to expose more than you like. There's always going to be something that trickles out, even in your own work, about who you are maybe, or your experiences. But you have to do that. It's something you have to endure, because if you don't, you'll get nowhere. And that's what, when I saw that scene, I already knew where it was leading. I was like, Sengoku's going to choose the second option, but she should have chose the first. She should have chose the first. But this is what's beautiful about this is, actually, it doesn't matter what decision she made, because that mistake of choosing the second led to a pretty similar conclusion anyway. And what is that?
As the
growth.
first,
growth, perspective, right? Yeah, it's so beautiful, and it's great depiction of the creative process. Like, yeah. I went on a huge tangent, but all of this I think resonates.
No, dude, that was fantastic. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I have 2 things to add to what you said, because you were cooking. Whenever you talked about Nadeko's quote, it's very similar to my favorite quote from the final episode of the season, which whenever she finishes off and she's talking to the previous version of herself, she's saying, your hardships, your pain, your cute heartbreak, I'll turn them all into an interesting manga.
Exactly.
That is my favorite quote from the entire thing, because that is exactly what her journey represents while she looks back on her previous versions of herself. Like, all of these individuals are me, and I will take everything that you guys have ever gone through and make an interesting manga out of it. Like you said, to touch and or allow yourself to to meet with other individuals through the written word, through in Nadeko's case through manga, because that's the ways that we're able to communicate with each other. Similar to like the whole theme of Violet Evergarden being that words can travel beyond generations and time and space and stuff. Going into the other thing that you said, I'm so glad you brought this up because I was going to bring it up too for the first option. So we're definitely on the same wavelength there. Just piggybacking off of what you said with the entire journey and how it all leads off into the same exact destination. One of my favorite things about this arc when I read it first as a novel and then I saw it in the anime, it just made it that much more apparent what he was going for, is that when God Nadeko, the with the incredible snake hair, is our main central antagonist figure in the library. The individuals that are surrounding this character are all naked versions of Nadeko. And I think what's very interesting about this is the way that Nisio Isin and the way that you just put so brilliantly is that a lot of every single creative, but I can only speak as an author. An author has to expose themselves in order to allow the words to reach other people. It is something that we need to do. Neil Gaiman even talks about this. Like, the only way you can be honest to yourself is if you metaphorically go out there, strip naked, and run through barbed wire. He says something along those lines, and that's exactly what it feels like to allow yourself to actually be honest in your writing, right? To actually have yourself come through the page. And that's exactly what Nadeko has to go through. She needs to turn into one of those other naked versions in order to get that final blow on God Nadeko. But what's so beautiful about this, and what makes Nadeko Draw such a special story, is that it does not end there. The exposing yourself is only the beginning. Now she must confront the most dangerous version of herself, which was meek Nadeko all along, when she goes back to the starting point of where all this began in the first place, right in front of the school. And so it's, of course, it's the classic Nisiosian thing of ending it where it started, which is just storytelling in a nutshell. But the way in which it happens, of the exposing yourself to not only reach the audience that's out there, which in that case would have been God Nadeko or anybody in a library who'd be reading that work, but then you go back to yourself. Like, that's the only way you can connect with yourself as well, is if you truly are honest and expose yourself thoroughly. You will then be able to connect to the other versions of yourself that maybe you were embarrassed about, but now you'll be like, nah, I can't be embarrassed of the things that got me here to this point. And I think it was such a brilliant way to go about the story in that way, and have her go and attack each individual one of these in a different type of way, then leading to, like you said, us going through the first option anyway. And this is why I love Ononoki so much. Like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Ononoki is always so blunt with certain things that when these types of situations come out, I truly feel like she is the editor that any author would love to have. The editor that tells you the way that it is, but it also will be willing to die with you to ensure that this thing happens. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. The ideal like version of an editor that, oh, this person cares about this as much, if not more, than I do. Like, and not only just about this work, about me, myself as a person as well. I also really love their relationship too. But yeah, man, like, it's a really beautiful thing. I'm so glad you brought up that first option. Were there any type of thoughts that you have on the individual battles themselves where she has to confront? Because obviously Monogatari, even though it does have its battle sequences, I argue all the time that the final battle of Kizu is one of the greatest anime fights of all time. But the really cool thing about Monogatari is that most of the time the battles end up being, either battles with yourself, psychological battles, battles in mystery. Like, there's a lot of different ways that he tackles it. And obviously, he's a big fan of Shonen Jump magazine, which is why he loves doing battles in these different types of ways. But are there any thoughts you have on the different types of, like, whenever Nadeko fought against the flirty Nadeko, or the meek one, or the god one? Like, is there anything that stood out to you in those individual altercations?
Yeah, I have a note on one of them, actually. So Meek Nadeko and Snake Nadeko operating together, I think, is very interesting, because I think it's symbolic in how, in actuality, they're the most alike out of all of her versions. Snake Nadeko was a compromise over her true desire to become a manga artist. Not even that godlike self could get over her embarrassment of the true path she yearned for, basically. And if that's the case, Meek Nadeko is just a more transparent version of herself with the same problem. She hides her bangs and simultaneously hides away who she is, who she wants to be.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect crescendo into the end, into the semi-plot twist that, the final boss? No, it's not Snake Nadeko, because Meek Nadeko encompasses everything that is wrong with Nadeko's previous, version of herself. Mm-hmm. And that was the fact that while she had something in her sights, and it was truly, and this is part of what I love about Nishio Ishin, I love when an author is able to elucidate compounding feelings that can easily be confused in your head. Why am I doing this? I know very good and well that obsessing over Araragi, someone who obviously probably can't even reciprocate. He's got a girlfriend. I know all this is bad and I need to become a manga artist, but man, oh man, I want to do this. Why am I doing this? Nishio Ishin is able to elucidate it perfectly. Well, because it's fun. This, to me, this distraction is life, and it is having fun, and not only fun, but that romantic endeavor. Even if not reciprocated, it could lead somewhere, and that love, that affection, all of that is who we are fundamentally. That is how we progress as a society. That's how we procreate. And the fact that it's such a simple explanation, but it's able to completely explain all the nuance going on in her head as to why she would ever do this in the first place. It's amazing. It's just that whole sequence. Did I become that boring of an adult where I can't appreciate moments like this, where I can't appreciate these distractions? And the response is perfect, because it's not that you dispel them. It's not that you say, no, I can't have them anymore. It's that now is not the time, because that wasn't the right distraction. That was not the right distraction. I will find my distraction at a later date, one that is more for me, one that is reciprocated, right? It's so perfect. Mm-hmm. Nishio Ishin is a genius when it comes to this stuff, man. Yeah. He's so good at elucidating very complex subject matters in a very digestible format.
Yes.
And then on the opposite spectrum, he's very good at using symbolism to lead you to his thematic truth, which is what I was still getting to. The fact that she is the final boss is because all of this compounds into the fact that all of these versions of herself were versions of her that were compromises in favor of what she truly wanted to do, right? Yeah. All of these were concessions made so that she could continue hiding who she truly was. She could continue this farcical sort of limbo state because, well, it wasn't hard, and it maintained her. It maintained her, because as soon as you expose yourself and you have that embarrassment, you're no longer just you anymore. You are a weaker version of yourself. You are a version of yourself that could completely collapse, crushing your dream. That dream might be crushed, but all of these anxieties are something every author must face, but they have to face them. They have to confront them, right? So the fact that Meek Nadeko is the final boss is perfect thematically. It's perfect because she is fundamentally, that's always who she was through all the godlike powers, through all the, wrathful Nadeko, the aggression, through all that. It was all because she was meek, because she didn't want to expose who she truly was. That's all it was. That's all it was. And that's so good.
Yeah. Brilliant. Very, very beautifully said, dude. I agree 100%. That was exactly that is precisely what makes that final twist so special. On top of the fact that Meek Nadeko then removes by actually taking the bangs and forcing them over to the side as an actual visual gesture of yes, I have changed. Not just the version of yourself in the past was impacted by the version that you are now, and I will take that version of you that accepted this, and I will never forget that, and I'll take that into the future now with me. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing that the that we've gotten obviously in Monogatari before with the main protagonist, right? With Ogi and Araragi. Araragi had to accept his other self in order to get to that quintessential truth of the entire series, that the only individual that can save you is you. And we get to see that again with the other central protagonist in the series of Nadeko, in an almost not an exact same way, but in a similar way. There with the final chapter in the 30th chapter of Nadeko Draw. But I want to highlight on something that you said in regards to the rejection and love, because obviously Monogatari has centered around those topics in multiple different stories. But I think the two highlights of rejection and the way that individuals live on past that and carry that with them into the future are individuals in Nadeko and Hanekawa, and we get to see how both of them how they dealt with these feelings of love and having to create other versions of themselves with Black Hanekawa and all the different versions of Nadeko, to be able to deal with not understanding or attempting to suppress all of those things down below. And the way that even accepting their rejection or those feelings to begin with, the fact that they would not be reciprocated, is something that would lead to their ultimate moment in both Tsubasa Tiger and in Nadeko Draw, is such a powerful thing, because obviously Nisio understands all of us as people, and I think one thing that drives every person, no matter who you are, is love. Whether it's love for another individual, or love for what you do, or love for a certain thing, that is such a powerful force. That is what makes us human. And so when he dives into that same central concept for almost every single character in the story, but in particular, what could happen when that love is reciprocated for someone like Senju Gahara, who really needed that at that point in time, or what happens when that love is rejected in a Hanekawa or Nadeko situation, and what comes of that. And we see Nadeko's journey that comes of that, and of course Hanekawa's journey that comes up after that. And it's just how these things, like you said earlier so brilliantly, is how he's able to take these things, these concepts that are, God, you can write 500 books on them, but he takes them and makes them so digestible. It goes back to his inspirations, man. That's something that Akira Toriyama is the master of, is making all of those things digestible. And so for him to do that in the written word is something that I really, really appreciate. Are there any other thoughts that you have for this Nadeko Draw greatness, man?
Well, actually, I'd like to add on that on the love topic, okay, because you mentioned Hitagi End earlier. One of my favorite aspects of Hitagi End is centered around love. And not love between Shinjigahara or Araragi, actually, which is a big part of that arc. She's doing all this for Araragi, but actually between Kaiki and Shinjigahara. Because something that's interesting in that is that slowly but surely she becomes more amicable to Kaiki. Their dynamic becomes more warm the more you dive into it. And my interpretation of that has always been that Shinjigahara realizes that Kaiki, in actuality, all those years ago, was truly like her salvation, in a sense, like that. He was trying his best to do what Araragi did. He just didn't do it in the way that what he did, she could not fully accept, because she had yet to accept herself. She had yet to face herself. Kaiki was essentially too soon. She was not yet equipped to experience that growth. And
gotcha.
Through the course of that relationship in Hitagi End, to me it becomes clear Shinjigahara is realizing that Kaiki was good to her in those moments in the same way Araragi was. And it becomes this really, really cool, it becomes this really insanely cool arc for Shinjigahara, especially someone that is such a big fan of her as I am, to see that it's almost her warming up to Kaiki is almost an admission of this realization that, oh, Kaiki, like, you were good to me all along. Like, we could have even potentially become a thing. Like, this was truly, this might have happened, but Araragi came at the right time, basically, kind of thing. And this flows into the dialogue. I don't remember in what arc, where Araragi and Shinjigahara have that conversation where they're like, this could end at any time. And it could have been just mere happenstance that it even began. But what matters is we're here now in this relationship and we love each
Right.
other, right? And it's so real and it's so direct and it's just true. And that's the kind of shit I love about Nishio Ishin, is he is so good at putting these things that we all know about. We just aren't able to as eloquently or effectively communicate in words as to how these relationships function. But yeah, that just everything you were just talking about, love, reminded me of Hitagi End, and one big aspect that I love so much about it. But yeah.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is, Koi. It's such a fantastic arc for multitude of different reasons. I feel like Hitagi End is like the obviously that was like the original ending point for the series, at least in Ishin's mind, and then we got it again through Owari and then through Zoku and stuff. But the Hitagi End truly felt like a culmination of everything up until that point, to a really creative degree, where that is an arc where we get to follow the POV. If it's supposed to be the finale of that particular part of the story, it was such a cool thing for him to shift from Araragi to Kaiki, and seeing how Hitagi, how Senju Gahara is going out of her way to try so hard to ensure his Araragi's safety, but of course their future, and having to do it behind Araragi's back, and having to reach out to someone like this. And of course, it leads to some of the best interactions in the entire series. But seeing Kaiki's journey through the Senju Gahara stuff, then going over into the Nadeko stuff, is so interesting, because you cannot have the Kaiki who delivers that final speech to Nadeko if he does not go through what he does with Senju Gahara throughout the course of that arc.
Exactly.
And I think it's such an interesting way of looking at everything we've been talking about so far, which is the journey each individual takes, not going to plan, but it ends up following a similar sort of path that it should have anyway, as long as you take action. And it's so interesting how we see that through a character like Kaiki, where of course we see what happens to this character at the end of that arc, but leading up to it, having that moment before that takes place, being able to save or lead an individual to saving in a way that he, like you said, he was not able to do for Senju Gahara, he was able to do for Nadeko. And it's so interesting how we play with those parallels within the series in multiple different ways. Another character, obviously, that comes to mind is Shinobu in a different type of way, but that is definitely a character I can't wait to talk about down the line. Have you watched the episode that just dropped to 6.5?
I didn't have enough time to get to it. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
No worries. No worries. It's whenever you do get around to it, and whenever the audience gets around to it, it is it's a very unique episode and presentation. It plays like a fairy tale, and the way that it looks from a visual standpoint is very Revolutionary Girl Utena, very shoujo. I like it a lot. It's Monogatari always finds a way to differentiate its arcs. Like Sodachi arcs look different from Ogi arcs. Ogi arcs look different from Shinobu arcs. Like they always do. Shaft always does a great job from differentiating. But this one, as a small 12-minute episode, it just so uniquely presented that I would highly recommend it to watch. Just for the visual spectacle, it's so cool. It's so cool. It's Shaft flexing their muscles as always. But yeah, man, do you have any more thoughts on anything here?
No, I think I got across exactly why this personally resonated with me so well. And I also touched on the ending, how she's going to become a better artist because she's now got a new side gig. And that's going to give her more inspiration, more perspective, more growth, all which are necessary to write better stories and progress your stories. From beginning to end, this was just the creative journey, just romanticized, basically. Well, not even romanticized. No, that's not giving it credit, because it's not even because when it comes to the emotions and the turmoil and the struggle, it's all there, crystal clear, and it feels very real. So the romanticization is just like all the the spirit stuff that's happening, or all the oddity stuff that's happening. That is the only difference. That is the only difference here. Yeah,
man. So I have to, first and foremost, so many incredible things. I'm so glad I brought you on, Spicy. I need to have you on more often, man. Yeah, yeah, dude. Like, seriously, you were spitting throughout the course of the entire thing, and I'm so glad. Obviously, for this one in particular, I really wanted to have someone else who's going through a similar journey. Because obviously I wish the best for your success in future endeavors in regards to the writing thing. But in particular for the ways in which these stories can impact us, I've always appreciated the way you're able to articulate your thoughts and talk about these stories in a more personal way. So we definitely look forward to having you on the channel again to talk about other stories that I really, really enjoy. But for Monogatari, I was like, there's no better individual to have on than Spicy. So Spicy.
One more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
One more thing. I do because I want to lay some groundwork for some hype in the future for us Monogatari fans. So okay, I gotta ask Recon, have you read anything of Musubi Monogatari, that novel?
I'm only one novel away from being caught up. So I've read Musubi.
Okay. So for the audience, and hopefully you agree with me, Recon, I remember reading Musubi Monogatari, which is basically the chronological endpoint, as we know it right now, of Monogatari. Chronologically, it is like the end. So I would imagine they're going to get to it in the Off and Monster seasons, right? I would estimate, because it's part of that.
I don't think we're going to get to it this season.
Okay.
But I think we'll get to it the season after that.
Okay.
I believe.
Hopefully that comes relatively soon, because I will tell you guys, that chronological endpoint, Musubi Monogatari, is the most bittersweet shit I have ever read in my life. Oh my god. So I cannot wait for that to get adapted. Cannot wait. And I would definitely, let's just say there's so much greatness to come. So much greatness to come. We, as Monogatari fans, we have so much to look forward to.
So much.
Just in that novel alone, there's just so much goated material. So, yeah.
No, great call there. As a matter of fact, because I took notes after every single arc that I read, for the final segment of Musubi Monogatari, the end point has yo in all caps, a gibberish, and then the universal language, zenith of the medium, the apex of invention. Shaft is gonna make this a generational masterclass. Like dude, that the end of Musubi, just adding a little bit more hype into that. When Shaft gets their hands on that, we are looking at something truly special.
Yes.
The final couple, because there's a lot of really good stuff there, but especially that final act, some good stuff. Some really, really good stuff, and then even after that, there's a lot of fantastic greatness happening. But yeah, man, Spicy, let the good people know where can they find you and what do you have cooking in the kitchen right now.
All right, well, you can check me out, youtube.com/hotboyspicy. All one title there, one word, no spaces. Hot Boy Spicy, and right now I'm dabbling in a couple of different ideas. I have some One Piece ideas. I have a Bleach video that might be in the works eventually, even a Naruto video actually, and then this one's going to be different from my usual because I am I think I'm most known for my defending Naruto probably. It's actually going to be opposite. I have an idea that's talking about my least favorite thing about the series. And it's my first video talking about a negative of a story that I love. So it'll be interesting. Then Monogatari, after talking to you two, I might even make a new Monogatari video for the first time in years about Nadeko Draw.
Nice.
But for sure, I potentially have one Piece video coming around the corner, a Bleach video, and that Naruto video. So big three, of course, as always with me.
The greatest of all time.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I truly appreciate you. And for everybody who has not checked out Hot Boy Spicy's channel, after listening to the man cook here, you definitely got to go check it out. It's basically him, what he cooked here, except with visuals and audio presentation over there. That's basically what it is. It's some really good stuff. My guy cooks for every series that he touches, and I'm looking forward to that Naruto video because I always appreciate whenever we're able to look at these stories that we love so much, especially because I know how much you love Naruto, and see it from the opposing perspective and or something that we don't normally get a chance to talk about. I would love to do it with One Piece one day. Let's talk about stuff that my least favorite stuff about One Piece too. But yeah, cool, I'm looking forward to watching that Naruto one for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have cooking there.
All right, man.
Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be on the, I believe, either this next week or the week after, releasing the favorite One Piece arcs of all time poll, now that Egghead is coming to a close. So definitely prepare your lists. It's going to be a tough one. We're going to be going crazy. I've been hyping this up for a while. I've been going through multiple different sections of the story, preparing myself for what is inevitably going to be the most difficult list to make so far, just based on the arcs that have come out since we've done an arc ranking. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely look out for that, as well as future collaborations that will be taking place very soon here on the channel. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been my conversation with Hot Boy Spicy on that Monogatari greatness. If there's anything that you would like to add to what we've discussed here today, or your own personal experiences, if you're a creative, it doesn't matter if you're an author, a mangaka, a dancer, an actor, a director, if you are an aspiring individual and or working individual in any of these fields and would like to share your experiences and how these things resonate with you, definitely reach out to me in the comment section down below, because I would love to read about it. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for us today. Have an awesome sauce of a day. Monogatari greatness, man. I can't wait for more, yo.
Always, always, always with this anime. The best anime in existence. Let that be known.